I'm on the Facebook. Yeah. I love that song. Make me want to go out there and take on like 8 or 10 people, just pop, pop, moving on them, you know? Ducking, wow. Come another one fall down. Am I good?
You are good.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Wednesday, and I want to welcome everybody that's here at ArchAngel of Return to Chivalry. And yeah, I'm Trooper Joe. I have my hat on, so I know who I am. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit today about lying, the different types of lies and stuff. So you have to bear with me. This is really a kind of a complicated type of subject because everybody does it so well, you never know when it's happening. But before that, I want to send out, I hope that everybody, my prayers and love for everybody who came through Harvey. And now I want to extend whatever's left in me from prayers and things for Ursa, what's her name? Irma. Now that's a hurricane. That's a hurricane, you know. Back in the day on those islands, you know, just like in that movie. What was that? I'm forgetting the name of that movie. Let's see. What we have here is a God-given something for training, you know. Kind of hurricane, so you got to go out and train. Basic, I think, was the name of that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what you do. You train in all kinds of weather. You know, that's how you fight wars. I don't know how we got off the topic and we're on wars, but anyway, I want everybody who's in the way of Irma, Puerto Rico, and all those islands out there, take shelter. Don't try to be macho. It is not a God-given excuse to train hard and stuff like that. It's dangerous. 185-mile-an-hour wind will hurt you. The wind itself won't blow you away like you're some kind of kite or something like that, but it will pick up debris off the streets. It'll knock down trees and things. And if you're silly enough to be standing outside in front of that stuff, it will hurt you. So take shelter. Hopefully you can ride it out. Hopefully it doesn't devastate the area too bad. And then the president, and I mean, there's plenty of pre-warning now, and you had already an opportunity to put your stuff into play with Harvey, so there shouldn't be any real delays on getting aid out to Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands and the other islands out there. And then if it makes landfall in Florida and stuff like that, it's going to be expensive. This is where the aid comes in. Yeah, so we're up here in Worcester. It may come up, it may not, we don't know. If it does, we'll be ready for it. But the people living on the coast, take shelter. Don't go out there and think that, oh, these are great big waves, I can go surfing. No, you can't. You can, but you may not make it all the way in. There's all kinds of things that are going to try to take you to the bottom of the ground and really hurt you. And I know this because I'm rambling for a minute and it just popped in my mind, so I'm going to say it anyway, because I know my wife, she gets upset when I do this. It was the only play I was ever in. I don't know the name of it. I was like maybe 8 years old, and my line, I only know part of the line now. I was a little bad kid who used to hide underneath the couch with my friend. He was another little bad kid, and we used to always say, the surf. It reaches up and grabs your feet and pulls you down beneath the sea and beats your head upon a rock. I forget the rest of it, but that's what's going to happen to you if you think you're going to go out there and go surfing in a hurricane. The surf will do that to you. So be wise. Think about the little poem from Trooper Joe's debut of the play at school. And don't go out there and do that, because that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, and all you people, it really just, you know, seek shelter, bring some extra foods with you and stuff like that. And if you got a little kind of shortwave radio that you can wind up, bring something so that you can keep in contact with what the disasters are and stuff. Be prepared and you'll come through it really nicely. Don't challenge it. Mama Nature does not care about you. Not even a little bit. Even though her name is Mama Nature, you know, Mother Nature. Nah, she ain't one of them loving kind of mothers. She will give you a spanking. Yeah. And there's other news going on. Hopefully that we're not going to war with Korea, because then I'll lose to Will.
Yes.
Stupid. He's right over there, making sure I keep this right. Yeah, that's scary. You know, actually, I've been thinking about it, talking to the wife every once in a while about it and stuff like that. She never really talks about those kind of events. So this is a scary situation that's really just might come to happen in more, you know, more ways than one. It'll be scary on lives lost, but it'll also be scary when it comes to economics. You know, it's going to really devastate the American way of life, because we do a lot of business with a whole lot of countries and stuff, and because we do businesses with a whole lot of countries, our imports and exports, if we're going to put sanctions out so that we don't do business with anybody who does business with North Korea, then we're really going to be in trouble. And a couple of those countries that we're talking about we're not going to do sanctions with, they're rogue countries too, I believe, Pakistan and India, and they both have nuclear weapons. It's like, okay, we live in a nuclear age now, folks. It's like, just because one little rogue country is out there trying to catch up to everybody else's military might, really, that part ain't all that scary. All the talking back and forth and all this posturing and stuff like that, that's scary. That's scary, and I would like it to stop. And then we got the tax thing. You know, I don't know what that's all about with Trump signing the tax thing that the Democrats want just to make the Republicans mad at him. I don't understand this game that's going on back and forth. I'm beginning to understand Trump, which is kind of scary for me. It's like, you know, I always thought that, yeah, Trump, he's a businessman. He likes negotiating. He's not a politician. He has no idea what a Democrat or a Republican is. He don't know. He knows about win-win or win-lose or lose-lose or negotiate. I'll walk away from the table. Oh, don't you blink. He likes to negotiate. That's what he does. He's having the time of his life negotiating with everybody. He's meeting with all the big top people and talking about negotiations that, you know, he's having a ball. And I'm sure he's setting himself up for the future. So if we're going to threaten him with, you're a one-time president and stuff, it's like, okay, thank you. We had a governor like that here in Massachusetts. I think we had two, actually, Wells and Sargent. Both of them set themselves up so that they really didn't care whether they ever got elected governor again or not. One controlled the Massport, which controls everything that comes into the state. And the other one was just having a good time. But you know, sometimes we put political things from the way we see them, you know. And we're going to talk about that, because those are self-lies. Those are lies that we tell ourselves. Those are fantasy type of lies. They're not real. So let's get ready to talk about that for a minute, okay? Okay? We're going to talk about things mentioned as truth, which are purely inventions. See, that's what we're talking about right there. That was my little lead into that. See, those are inventions that happen. I just had a senior moment because I forgot what I was talking about. That's Will's job to help me out. So, but he wasn't paying attention. But anyway, yeah. We tell these truths. They're truth to us, you know, but they're just inventions to us. We invented them. On our other show that we did, we call them, man, I'm having a big old hard time remembering these
On the
things.
show we did?
Yeah, well, on Voice of the Voiceless, we call them Voice of the Voiceless facts and stuff
Oh,
like
okay.
that they're not real. They're just inventions of our own mind. So it's just like saying, well, yeah, everybody knows that this is how this is. And everybody probably does know how this is, but it's not true. It was something taken out of context someplace else, and then it was just became the truth because everybody knows it. Yeah, I can't really think of an example that everybody knows that this is it, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. So, that's a high one, but you know what I'm saying? These inventions that we have in our mind, they're not lies. They're just inventions. It's like saying that, the sand at the bottom of the ocean really is finer sand than the sand that you have on the beach. And everybody said, well, yeah, that's right. The sand at the bottom of the ocean would be finer. Then they add to it because it got this heavy-duty underwater current that just keeps moving it around and grinding it down. So it really is the finest sand that ever was, And now everybody starts to believe it. Nobody knows what the sand is like at the bottom of the ocean. But everybody's going to say, yeah, it's the sand at the bottom of the ocean is the finest grain of sand that there is compared to the sand that's on the shore. Because those are inventions of our own mind. Are they truthful? Who knows? You're not lying, and you're not telling the truth. You're just telling an invention of your own mind or everybody else's collective minds about things like that. That's how we do. These are one forms of lying that, and one forms of not telling the truth and not lying at the same time. So there's other things that come in that are more heinous, like concealing a truth. We ought to diverge to lie. I should put on these glasses because everybody know I can't see without them. But that's the truth. Concealing a truth we ought to diverge is to lie, right? And what that means is if you know that Johnny was the one driving the car and that car swerved and hit the school bus and everything, and Johnny doesn't have a license and Johnny's not old enough to drive, but before anybody could really identify who was driving, Johnny and Mike switched seats, and Mike he got the license and old enough and everything, so the penalty won't be as sincere. Concealing a truth we ought to divulge is to lie. That would be a lie. Even if you don't say anything, it would still be a lie. If you witnessed that kind of event that took place, that would be you're lying if you don't divulge the truth. See? Because that's how that would happen. Because you know the truth. Johnny was driving, Mike wasn't driving. Should I tell the truth or this, that, and the other thing? It's not a big old giant kind of thing. It's a moral issue more than anything else for you, but it's a lie when it comes to facts. And it naturally goes the other way, that concealing a truth we ought not to divulge is not to lie. See, so it also goes the other way. So if we conceal a truth that we not ought to tell, like it's none of our business if Johnny comes home from school and goes out the back of his house and steals all the apples off his own apple tree. That's no concern, but we concealed that. So it's not a lie, but it's a concealed truth, Did Johnny steal the apples? Nobody's saying anything, And even if we know, it's still, that one's not a lie. As if you do the other way, it is a lie. Confused yet? I am. And I've been looking this stuff up and researching it. I'm pretty much confused about that here. That's what lies are here. That's why I try not to lie. Way too much work. It's way too much work. When I just run and say, yeah, Johnny was driving, Johnny was driving. No. But there was an accident, there was some kind of causal effect that happened in that thing. If people were injured and stuff like that, and somebody asked me, I said, well, no, it wasn't Mike who was driving, it was Johnny. I would tell the truth, because I ain't going to carry all that weight. Yeah. But would I run and say, do I care if Johnny's stealing the apples off his own apple tree? I don't care. So should I run over and tell Johnny's mother, you know, you won't have a whole lot of apple pies this Thanksgiving because Johnny keeps going in the tree eating them. Yeah, it's not a lie for me not to do that. So I don't do that. Very confusing. So don't worry about those two. Let's see. Now there's two questions here. These are raising questions. On what occasion we ought to speak the truth, right? Since we are not always bound to a declaration of it. Okay, that's the first question. The second question is whether there are situations in which we may deceive innocently. These are very, very tricky too. So the first question, let's look at that. On what occasions we ought to speak the truth, since we are not always bound to declarations of it. See, now, for me, that reminds me of the Prince in Machiavellian's book, The Prince, and stuff like that. And when should we speak the truth? Now, if we saw somebody, I think in The Prince, somebody was murdered somebody and ran into this house and went upstairs and everything, and we saw this, and the police were coming, you know, to find that. Should we, or are we obligated to tell the truth? Yeah, he went in there. I saw him. He ran inside that building. You know, and if we don't do that, are we lying? See, that's the problem. Some would say, we're not lying because no one asked us. You know, so to be a declaration of it. You know, but we saw it. We know that a crime was committed. It wasn't some kind of innocent thing like they were playing hide and go seek or something like that. No, there was a crime attached to this. There was a seriousness attached to it. So we saw the person run into the building. And the cops, we see the police running around looking for the building. So we ought to speak the truth in that situation. Yeah? So we ought to speak the truth. So if we don't, then it's a lie. We're lying if we don't, even if we're not asked. You know, so that's pretty scary actually, because you know, because now you start to juxtapose, I'm not going to say anything because they're going to know I said it and all this stuff, and you're going to personalize it to all kinds of extremes. And it would actually, I believe, be in your best interest to get a murderer off the streets. You know, whether he's going to be mad at you or not, it's irrelevant. It's your own safety that's going to matter. So that's where you ought to tell the truth. Yeah. That guy ran into the building with the guns and everything. You should have seen it. And he was terrible. But, and number two, whether there are situations in which we may deceive innocently. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Big Will tuning in.
Yes. True. When you're talking about these things, and I always struggle because, you know, the Bible says, you know, you shouldn't lie and everything. But, like, for example, there was a time where I was driving. I went to go pick my uncle up from North Carolina. So I drove straight down there. I was on my way back, and we were stuck in New York. And my grandmother had passed away. I asked, was there anything wrong, and how was she doing? And they lied to me so I could be able to drive back without going hysterical and losing it. In those cases, do you think that's a good reason to lie?
So, okay, see, now you heard that you heard that thing. Now this is on the number 2, whether there are situations in which we may desire innocently. So we can lie innocently is what it's saying. And that's again is a tricky kind of thing like that. What they're trying to, are they trying to save you from your own, from being upset, or are they trying to save themselves from you not crashing the car and killing everybody? You know? So, you know, it's like, is there ever a good time to lie? I think in that situation when you asked, and if you're the one driving the car and everything, I think the proper response really would have been, you know, let's talk about that in a little while.
Okay. What about sparing feelings? Because that's I don't think they did it because they were afraid that I was going to crash. I think they did it to spare my feelings because I wasn't in a place where I could deal with those feelings at the time. But a lot of people lie in a lot of different situations to spare someone their feelings. Does this make me look fat? No, because you don't want to hurt their feelings. So I'm kind of leaning towards you should just tell the truth all the time.
And if you tell the truth all the time, then you get to be like me.
Yes, and get in trouble a lot.
And as my daughter would say, if you really want to know, you can ask my father. But if you don't want to know, don't ask him, because he will tell you. It's way too much for me to tell a lie. And I believe that we shouldn't do this to save somebody else's feelings. But then again, on the other hand, do I tell somebody, don't wear that? You know, offering that type of truthful interaction too. This is more what number 2 is talking about. You offered up that. Don't wear that clothes. It makes you look really fat, you know, or you're too old to be wearing a miniskirt up to your navel, you know. It's like in those situations like that there, this is what number 2 is addressing. It's should you say something or should you lie? And it would be a lie if you didn't say anything. And they go out. If you didn't say anything to somebody and they look real, they put on something that was really inappropriate. They put on something that was really just made them look as though they needed a lot of help, you know, and they went outside and they got totally embarrassed by the people outside who don't know them or anything like that, and they came back in and they was all depressed and crying and everything. The fault is on you in some regard, because you knew that this was going to happen. You had an idea that this was going to happen because you saw them, and you should have said something. I believe that you should have said tactfully, you should have said something. We don't though, and I think that's more for us trying to protect our own feelings, and not, it's twofold. We don't want to upset them, and we don't want them to be mad at us. So instead of telling them, "Is you crazy?" We're there. You know, we find some, yeah, I'm gonna get a drink of water. we find an excuse for us to get out of the room, so we don't have to say anything. And that goes to number 2. You know, and I believe that we shouldn't do that, because that is definitely not a good thing. The lying is so complicated. We just thought it was easy, you know. I didn't do it. The dog ate my homework. You know, I think that's the first lie you learn in school. Did you do your homework? I did, but the dog ate it. I was on my way to school and I got jumped by the 20 kids from this bad neighborhood over here, and they took my homework and ripped it all up. Yeah, they did. That happened to me. So, I didn't even have a dog, but he wouldn't eat it anyway. Let's see what else I got here written. To leave unsaid that which is true and speak that which is false are 2 things very different in themselves, but which, not without standing, frequently produces the same effect. Alright, see, that's what these 2 questions come to. This is the kind of answer to that. You know, if to leave unsaid that which is true. If somebody really put on some inappropriate dress and they went outside and they, it made them look trashy or made them look stupid, and you and speak that which is false. So speak that which is false. You either say, "Oh yeah, you look good in that," that's wrong. You can even tell that's wrong without even thinking about it. Or not to say anything, that's wrong too, because that they're going to go out there and they're going to get their little itty bitty feelings hurt because somebody is going to say something, and it's going to be devastating for them. So it has the same effect. It has the same effect whether you speak the truth or you don't speak at all. So this gives you the same effect that the person or whatever the situation, it's going to be in the negative. So that's why you have to. This is just keeping lies in a logical perspective. And if you put in moral perspective, that's when it's going to get even more complicated. Lies are just as crazy as they want to be. Let's see what else we got before maybe we pay a bill or two. In respect to unmeaning truth, error is not worse than ignorance. Alright? In respect to unmeaning truth, error is not worse than ignorance. Now, unmeaning truth, that would be like we said about the ocean, keeping it clean and stuff like that. We don't know. It's an unmeaning truth. Or if you said, if you're saying something like, yeah, see those people over there? They did it, and you're speculating on that. You don't know. You're ignorant. You weren't even there. This happens a lot. Situations occur. The news shows up. The news finds somebody who wants to talk. The person generally who they find who want to talk, they weren't even there. They were going on whatever it is that somebody else is saying. So that's an unmeaningful truth. For them, they don't really know the truth. They know what everybody else has alluded to the truth. If it is the truth at all, they don't know. So is not worse than ignorance. See? Because it'd be better just to be ignorant of the whole fact. I don't know. I'm just coming here. I'm curious just like everybody else. I'm ignorant to the fact that what's going on. So that would be the best thing to be in in many situations, than be the one who tells an unmeaningful truth. But people like the limelight. They want their 15 minutes of fame, so that camera comes in front of them, they're going to tell their truth. This is the truth. And in some cases, are they lying? They're not really lying in some cases, like with the sand at the bottom of the ocean compared to the sand that's on the beach. It's just they don't really know. It's generalized by the population that the sand at the bottom of the ocean is finer, greater sand than the sand at the top because of these currents and all these things and fishes wagging their tail and moving all the sand around. And you don't have that kind of action at the top, so it has to be. So they go through that little logical diagram, and they come out with this answer that's unprovable. So it's an unmeaning truth. So what would be better would just to be ignorant of the situation. I don't know. I don't know if the sand at the bottom of the ocean is finer than the sand that's up on the beach. So the ignorance would win out in that case. Or just like if you come to a situation and that something happened and the news media or anybody else is there and they come, what happened? You don't have to be news media. People standing around looking, oh man. And somebody come up new to the scene, what happened? But they don't know you're new to the scene. And if you're new to the scene, you're just going to give an unmeaningful truth of what happened based upon what you heard everybody else said. You don't know what happened. You're just going by what they said. Like a car accident. You say, oh yeah, that car ran right into him. Never slowed down or anything like that. Of Could have been that the other one backed into the person. You don't know. You weren't there. But the story is going that this way, so you go with that. Where it'd be much easier and to say, oh, I don't know. So you claim ignorance. Alright? So I mean we're getting on with this. Let me just read this a little bit. If the obligation to speak the truth is only founded on its utility, and that's the state of being useful, how hath I become a competent judge of this expediency, and that's convenient or practical, although possible, improper or immoral. So let's break that down. If the obligation is to tell the truth, that's what we're obliged to do, is to tell the truth, right? And the truth is founded on utility. So it's founded on a state of being useful. We're not obligated to tell the truth that doesn't have any usefulness to it. It doesn't matter. We have no obligation to do that. So we're obligated to tell the truth that's going to be beneficial to the masses of people or beneficial to somebody because it has utility. It's a state of being useful.
So does that mean there is room to lie?
That's what they're getting to. It seems like they are. So now how hath I become a competent judge of this expediency? And that's convenient or practical, although possibly improper or immoral. So if the obligation is to tell the truth based upon something that has utility, that is useful, how am I a competent judge of what is this usefulness if it's based in your judging upon expediency, which is convenient or practical? So if the truth is useful, it's useful to tell the truth. The apples grow on apple trees, right? That's the useful truth. If you want to make an apple pie, you don't go to the orange grove to get the apples. You got to go to the apple tree to get the apples because that's a useful truth. But how do you judge this expediency? Convenient or practical, although possibly improper or immoral. Now, is it really truthful that apples grow on apple trees? Yeah, but does it really make a difference in telling the truth if apple grows on apple trees? I think I used a really bad example. Now, but for the first part it makes sense. The second part it doesn't make any sense because it is a useful truth to speak truth and of utility. The apples grow on apple trees, so if you want to make an apple pie, you have to go to the apple grove and get the apples. But who's the judge of this expediency or practical, although possibly improper or immoral? Who judges that it's the best place to get your apples? And I'll just work my way out of this hole by saying, yeah, you go to Shaw's. You can buy your apples in the store. You don't really have to go to the store to get your apples. This is really difficult. Folks, I am so sorry. I didn't know it was going to be this hard to not tell lies. When I was putting this together, I must have been lying to myself big time. Like I was going to understand this. There's some parts of this that are really getting way over my head. But that's okay. That's okay. This is good. This is what archangels do. Archangels don't lie. So as you can see, it's not easy to be an archangel. So if you really want to take on that mantle of being an archangel, there's a lot more to it. The truthfulness part of it is pretty obvious because that's what an archangel would be doing. Somebody would ask them a question and they're obligated to speak the truth, whatever that question would be, because that's what they would do. If they ask the question, how do I look in this dress? You're obligated to tell them the truth. Now, the way that you tell the truth That would be more with this judging expediency here, whether it's improper or immoral to say something like, you know, hey, well, the truth is that you look really terrible and, you know, it's not flattering and don't wear that. You know, that could be an expediency and that could be improper to tell somebody like that. But maybe not. But it would totally be an immoral thing if you were to tell somebody that, or if you were to tell a young lady who was going to go to the prom and she's wearing this thing, well, don't go to the prom because now you look like a streetwalker. You know, that would be an immoral issue because you just did that maliciously and you would have done that to hurt their feelings and make them feel bad about themselves. So we are, as Archangel, obligated to speak the truth. Yeah. And that is founded on utility, which is the state of usefulness. So it's useful to tell somebody that, you know, you look good in that dress you're wearing or that suit you're wearing. You look real good, but I don't think I'd wear those SpongeBob socks with those. You know, you could, but you know they look alright. But you know, you might get a lot of chuckles. But that might be what the person's looking for. So, you know, you just be honest and tell the truth. But on the other hand, you're not the judge of the expediencies. You don't put in any moral issues, any moral attachment to their query of the truth by saying, you know, if you wear that dress out there, you know, you're really going to be making yourself out to look as though that you're have somebody of low moral fiber and that you're a streetwalker or some kind of thing like that, whatever you want to say. So it's really, this is hard. So here's the thing that kind of tries to explain this. If I do no harm to others, does it follow that I do none to myself? See, this is where you get these two like this here. Because in the first one, you're not doing any harm to others. You're speaking the truth on utility. You're telling the person the truth on the facts of the matter. You know, you're not doing any harm to others. Therefore, you're not doing any harm to yourself. The second one, you know, with the expediency and stuff, because morals come into this and improperness comes into this, you're doing a harm to the other because you're going to hurt their feelings. And they may punch you in the face. There might be some physical harm coming to you. But not even with that punching you in the face. You may feel bad about yourself in some future time. It's like, I shouldn't have really done that. Now you're feeling all bad about yourself and everything. But you're not, you know, you told that lie that everybody tells when they're sometime in their life and they never want to divulge it, but it's always there in the back of their mind. So that's doing a lot of harm to yourself. So if I do no harm to others, so if you tell the truth based upon utility, you know, you have a high probability of doing no harm to others. You know, you can't control anybody's sensitivity. You know, just the utility factor might be that somebody actually put on a mini skirt and it's like, are you serious? You know, you told the truth and you didn't have to explain anything, but you did some harm to them. But here's the big but, because it wouldn't follow that it does harm to yourself, you know, just by doing that. But if you did it maliciously, you know, then it would follow that you do harm to yourself because, you know, you made a conscious choice to tell the truth and add to the truth, you know. So that would be added to the second part with improper or something that's immoral. You know, the first part is just based on utility. Yeah, everybody gonna be all good and righteous when they get done with this, huh? Except me, I'll be totally confused.
It's telling the truth is confusing, true.
Yeah, it's hard to tell the truth, folks. You think when your mama said don't lie, it's like wow. It's hard it's hard to tell the truth. It's not hard not to lie. Just don't open your mouth. Claim ignorance. You're all set. You know, you don't have to lie, but it's hard to tell the truth, and that's amazing. Let me see before I go ahead with this here. To render a lie innocent, it is not sufficient. There should be no injuries intended. Okay, that goes back to the one we were just talking about, the first part of this one here on utility. So to render a lie innocent, you know, it is not sufficient. There should be no injury intended. Because if there's no utility in the lie, then you're going to have to pass a judgment on it if you're using that lie or telling the truth. Because the utility would be what's going to render it innocent. Because then you're telling the truth based upon the facts of utility. So that's based upon the known fact. But if there's no utility in it, then it's not sufficient, and it should, and the injury, you know, even though it's not intended, will still be there. You know, like I said, you might think that you're doing the person a favor by telling them in an immoral type of way or the improper type of way that what they're doing really makes them look bad. You might believe that you're actually doing something that's good for them, but there's no utility really in telling them that. If the fact is that, you know, this is where you want to claim ignorance. It's like, I really don't want to answer that question. And if you do that, you already answered the question. But you didn't interject any of that improper or that immoral answers to it. It's just like, whoa, I don't want to answer that question. You know, you're off the hook. It's not going to bring any burden on you. You're off the hook. You didn't go in deep because you couldn't find any utility to it. It's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that, you know. And I think this happens a lot with the drug addiction and stuff like that. We got people out there telling lies that they know is a lie. They know it's bad and improper to do drugs because they're already doing it themselves, and they, not all people, but they know that the end result of it is your life is going to be trashed for doing this. You know, there's no utility in that, so they didn't tell the truth. They told the truth. Yeah, it ain't gonna bother you. You'll be all right just doing it the one time. They have no idea. But if they had utility and they just based the truth based upon the facts of utility, it's like, no, don't do that. Because the probability of you being addicted to drugs is high. So don't do that. I'm going to take a break because this really got my brains making my hat too tight. You know, because I did not realize just how complicated it is. It all made sense to me while I was researching. It's like, this is way too easy. You know? It's coming out. I was lying to myself.
Yeah. But it must have been one of them innocent lies. Shoot.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. This off?
Nope, not yet.
Served weekdays for those who want to dine in the Bay Sake Bomb Bistro.
But which is the worst kind?
01609, open Monday through Sunday.
All right, we're back.
Hey, we're back, and I'm not lying. I'm sitting right here in front of you, talking about truth and lies, which is really, really difficult. But this last part I want to talk about is going to be a little bit easier, I hope. It has more to do with moral fiber than it has anything else, you know? Because it starts out with, to lie for self-advancement is improper, right? That according to society. If you're lying to advance yourself, that's really improper, but it's done and everybody likes it. To lie for the emoluments for fees and salary and money and stuff, that's fraud. See, that's the whole difference between the improper and the emolument for lying. Self-advancement, sometimes it's in your best interest to tell the lie. And that lie, like I said, a lie isn't always opening your mouth and saying something. A lie might be not saying something. You might be telling a lie by, if you know, like, you know, you want to advance yourself in your career and stuff, and they ask, all right, who knows about electricity? And you raise your hand, yeah, I know about electricity. And then they say, who knows about carpentry? And you know, you raise your hand, I know about carpentry. Then they say, all right, who's never missed a day of work? And you've missed several days of work and stuff like this. Now, here it comes. Do you advance yourself by saying, I've never missed a day of work, you know, I've always got a good work record on being time and punctual and all this stuff, and you're always late, you know, that's a lie, but it's improper, but it's for your own self-advancement, so you get away with it. It's understandable, but it also is a lie for fees and salary. If your whole salary was based upon the fact that you were never late or anything like that, you know the records were off. So if you were going to have money on this stuff here, making big money, and you raise your hand knowing that you're late all the time, now that's fraud. Because you're cognitively aware that you're telling this lie for one reason. It's not self-advancement, it's for fees, it's for money. You know, even better. So, if you're lying, alright, just came up about, came up about, you know, if you're going to school and everything and you're trying to get the financial aid assistance and stuff, and they got the form to fill out, and you know if you put down and you tell the truth on all those things, that there's a good possibility that you're not going to get the financial aid. So is this self-advancement? To say, I'm not going to check all these boxes as I should. I'm not checking this one like this. I'm going to put this check over here because, you know that you're done if you put it over here. It's like, okay, you make too much money, so you put this over here. Like you might have a babysitting service or something like that that's really not registered, but you're making money. And you don't want to lie and say that you don't do any kind of extracurricular activities to make money. So, but no, I don't do any extracurricular activity. But you run a daycare center that nobody knows about, and you're making all this money, but you wouldn't get the financial aid. So that's self-advancement. It's improper. It's a lie, but it's done. It's a moral issue that's been done. Because nobody's going to check on those things. But if you just come right out and you have a second job, and or you're married and you put down, I'm not married, you know, and that's a lie for just to get the money, to get the financial aid. That's a different lie. That's a fraud because there's a record of your marriage, you know. So you're committing a fraud, and with committing a fraud, that's way different than the self-advancement. So, to be guilty of a falsehood that may do harm is slander, right? Which is the worst kind of lying. So, if this is when you're lying, you're just right out lying a falsehood at somebody. You know, he shot him. He didn't shoot nobody. He wasn't even there. What was his name? OJ? Yeah. You know, everybody said that he shot him. Yeah, so that's or to just say things about somebody that's not true. You just embellished everything. You just made it all up. That's a slander. And that's the worst kind of lying, because that lying has a direct effect on people's character, on the way people can, you know, on their whole livelihood. You can ruin a person just by telling a falsehood, you know, about their character, what they're like or what they did or anything like that, and you have no idea, you have no facts to it. There's nothing there to substantiate why you said it or why you did that lie. It's just a lie, you know, and that's slander. Okay? So, to advance an untruth without profit or prejudice, either to ourselves or to other is not lying by fiction. And fiction, as we know from talking last week, fiction is make-believe. It's fiction. So to advance an untruth without profit or prejudice, either to ourselves or others, is not lying by fiction. And that's powerful. That's just like with the sea sand and stuff like that. You advanced an untruth. You have no idea. You're not, there's no profit in it for you. There's no prejudice in it for you. This is just an easy one right there. It's just that you advanced this untruth because you have no idea if it's true. So it's not lying. Yeah? It's fiction. If you tell people, oh yeah, I've driven the car 100 miles an hour on the deserts down there in the salt flats and everything, that's a lie if you hadn't done it. If you've driven the car 95 miles an hour on the deserts down there in Salt Lake, that's not a lie. Because there's really there's no profit and no prejudice in it for you for that 5 miles. But if you had never done it at all, then it's a lie because there's a profit in it for you. It might be a social profit in the eyes of somebody or something like that. So that would be a lie. But to do it, just to add those couple of little miles and stuff that everybody does, there's really no profit in it. You've done this. It's just an embellishment on the facts that you've done. And it's a fiction when you get right down to the end of it. You drove it at 95 miles an hour. You didn't drive it at 100, so it's a fiction. Everybody likes the 100. You got that? Complicated, but the C one, it gives you a better example of the whole thing right there. So a liar is no less guilty of falsehood. A liar is no less guilty of falsehood because his lie is universally discovered. That's known to everybody else. So if everybody knows or everybody believes that the sand at the bottom of the ocean is finer than the sand up on the top of the beach, then it's nobody's ever guilty of a falsehood. But if somebody actually goes down there and gets the facts and of the sand at the bottom of the ocean and does the comparison at the top and everything, now it becomes a lie if you go by that generalization, that universal understanding about the bottom of the sea sand, because now you got the scientific proof that says that's not right. This is scientific proof of what the sand is like at the bottom of the ocean compared to the sand at the top of the ocean. There is no sand at the bottom of the ocean. It's all just hard-based rock, And then now if you put the sand there, then it's a lie. So those type of things like that is what you have to stay away from, telling things that you really you don't know, but everybody else has said so they become fact. These are universal things. The abstract things that you can go for, those are more individualized lies. Those are things that the abstract lies are usually the ones that we tell so that we can benefit ourselves or to hurt somebody else. Just thinking from ArchAngel. The universal lies are those things that we just say because everybody says them. It's like this is what everybody says. Everybody says that you have to, that you won't be able to do this because it's going to be too hard and stuff like. It's like becoming a doctor. When you're a kid, there was I'd like to become a doctor, but it's too hard. You got to go to school too long. You got to study too long. It takes too many years. That's a universal falsehood. But it's not a universal falsehood because it takes a lot of years. But you implied that in all those years you don't make money, and that's where the falsehood comes in. You know, just like anything else, you went to the grammar school, the junior high, or what do you call it, and then the high school, then college, and then continuing education.
Graduate school.
Yeah, and in the medical field, you do all those first 4, or whatever it is, and then you go, then your graduate school is medical school, the same as somebody else's graduate school. Now, after you finish graduate school, some people go to work, and everybody does, almost everybody, I'm taking a universal lie here, does an internship at their chosen profession, you know, just like in the medical field, you go to residency. Both of them are getting paid. You know, but they don't, it seems that the money disappears when you're talking about the doctor thing, because that's a universal falsehood, that it's going to take too long for you to be a doctor, because your end is to be the doctor and get, you know, but actually when you finish your medical school, you're a doctor. You get a degree to be a doctor. Then you start a residency program, and with the residency program, you're getting paid, just like when you finish your graduate school and you go to work. You know, now you're starting to learn the ropes of whatever field that you went into, which is just the same as the residency program, and in both cases you're getting paid. So that's like a universal type of lie for everybody when they say I don't want to be a doctor, because you know it takes too long. Everybody shakes their head. Yep, takes too long, you know, because they're all thinking that you don't get paid, but you do get paid. So they want to do the other thing, which takes just as long, but it's not a universally accepted lie. All right. Well, I think I kind of bored everybody enough with this lying and stuff, and I promise that the next time that I think that I know what I'm talking about, because I did the research and stuff, I'm going to go over that research and I'm going to tear all those papers up and throw them away. But I sure hope that somebody got something out. If nothing else, I hope people got out of this is it's not okay to lie, folks. It's not okay to lie, whether it's for your own benefit, whether it's for money, whether it's to save somebody's feelings, and they go out and get their feelings hurt anyway. It's not okay to lie. And the universal lies that or falsehoods that are talked about or anything, they're irrelevant to any kind of situation. They're harmless. It's very harmless unless, you know, you're an oceanographer, whether they're saying at the bottom of the ocean or not. It's just similar to, you know, Sherlock Holmes. He doesn't care whether the sun goes around the earth or the earth goes around the sun. It doesn't matter to him. But it may matter to somebody else. You know, so I want everybody to go and have that fun, and I say that sincerely. There's no lies, there's no profit for me saying that, there's no benefit for me to say that. This is nothing but pure, straight up truth. I'm loving all you people, and I want everybody to go have that fun. And I'm Trooper Joe, and this is it. All right, you go have that fun now.